The Premier League is just a few hours away. We're all excited to see all our favorite clubs back in action. And we start off with a Friday fixture.
Yeah.
It's Manchester United versus Fulham. But before we get into discussing the Premier League and what's going to happen this season, we're going to talk about obviously what are all the fixtures, which teams are doing well, which teams we expect to do well, which teams are going to be questionable. And obviously, we are giving our predictions for the top four, how Liverpool and how Chelsea do after two contrasting transfer windows. So, Rohit, what are your thoughts of the new season?
Well,
The summer wasn't really that long for us because we had so much football going on, the
yeah. It was a
Olympics,
fun
Copa
summer.
America, yeah, and Euros.
Yeah.
So it,
Yeah.
it felt a little short, but Premier League's back, our clubs
Yeah.
are back, and we're all
Premier League
energized
is
for this new
back.
season.
I was just thinking about it. It's been like over 21, 22 years we've been kind of following the Premier League, and I feel just as excited about tomorrow as I was 20 years back. Yeah,
Yeah,
football
yeah.
is an amazing sport, right? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Premier League. Obviously, this season, from a Chelsea perspective, I mean, I'm always excited no matter how, bad of a mess we're in. But overall, I think a lot of the teams have done really well in the transfer market. And I think this season it's going to be interesting because I think the
Not
gap.
Liverpool.
Yeah,
Not
yes, we just
Liverpool.
talked about it. Oh my God. But I think the gap between the top, four or five teams and the next three or four teams is reduced substantially, especially with some of the signings that people have done. I think the first team that I really wanted to talk about was, West Ham. They're not in the top six, but I have really good hopes for them. I think they're going to replace Aston Villa in one of the outsider teams vying for number four. I
Oh, that's a
maybe
bold
I
prediction.
yeah, it is a bold prediction. I'll tell you why, right? Because look at them, like they have reinforced their center forward. We talked about Nicholas Fulkrug,
Mhm.
perfect for their system, right? Really strong center forward, number nine, old fashioned. They've got a good winger, Somerville, right? They obviously already have Bowen, Paqueta, and Mohamed Kudus. They've also got some really good center backs. They signed Todibo on loan, and they've
Yeah.
also got Kilman, right, a highly rated center back, and they just signed Juan Bissaka. So I think they've made some really nice moves. I think they're going to do well. What do you think about West Ham?
More than that, apart from the signings, I think they bought a good manager in, right? So they have somebody
Yes,
who has experience of doing well at the
Lopetegui.
top
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
Lopetegui, yeah. So I think they're a good shout for a European spot. I'm not quite sure the top four material yet.
Hmm.
But you're right. It'll be interesting to see how they do because they do have some really good names. Like Fulkrug obviously is one.
Yeah.
Somerville, as you rightly said. They've also got this amazing youngster from Palmeiras, Luis
Hmm.
Guilherme, who's also, I
Exactly.
think, winger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And Van Bissaka for all his, his issues going forward. He's a good defender one
Oh,
on one.
amazing one-on-one defender. Yep.
He's one on one. He's probably one of the best right backs in England.
Yep.
So if he sticks to that bit of it,
Hmm.
who knows? It could work out for West Ham. But yeah, you're right. I think they could be one of the dark horses for a European spot. Top four might be a bit of a stretch,
Hmm.
but stranger things have happened in football.
Yeah, talking about top four, right? I think they are probably going to pip Aston Villa. So let's talk about
Hmm.
Aston Villa real quick, right? I think Aston Villa have done quite well in the transfer market as well. They've got Amadou Onana, they got Matson, right? But I think one person who they'll really miss is the winger they sold,
Yeah,
Diaby, who
yeah.
went to I think Saudi Arabia. And I don't think they've really replaced him and his influence in the game. I think that will come back to bite them because they've also lost Douglas Luiz. I know they've got Amadou Onana in, but Onana is a different kind of player. Douglas Luiz was more creative as the number six. So you think they've lost a little bit of the creative spark?
So losing Diaby came as a big shock to me because he was one of the best players and he'd only spent, I think, one season there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, he went off to make more money, which is fine. That's part and parcel of football. Uh, they do have some good signings. So I think one of the better signings that they made was Ross Barkley. I
Mm-hmm.
think Barkley did an amazing job for Luton last season. He
Yeah.
wasn't really brought that much because Luton struggled and whatever. And they do have some really good signings, as you said, Onana and Matson. They've got a really good centre forward also in Cameron Archer. I think we need to
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye on him. And Lewis Dobbin, he could be a decent option as well as a winger. So they do have good players. And again, it's a pretty decent manager in Emery there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what I want to see is how they deal with the prospect of Champions League football
Right.
because we've seen how Newcastle struggled with it last season initially. And I think we'll have more Champions League games this season, right? There's this new
Yeah.
format coming in and all that. So that will be a test for Emery and also the squad. The travel, the constant Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday thing. So yeah. So I think I understand where you're coming from, saying that West Ham could tip Villa. I forgot about this Champions League aspect. So yeah, it could be one of those two teams that come in the top.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on. Let's quickly talk about Tottenham because I think they've made a very shrewd signing in Dom Solanke, right? I
Oh
think they
yeah. Yeah.
have a good squad overall. They've also got Archie Gray, the youngster in midfield, but I think Dom Solanke will be crucial for them. I think he scored like 19 goals and 2 assists last season. And in a better team, I think he's really going to hit good heights. Solanke, obviously a Chelsea youth product as well. The more goals he scores, the worse we Chelsea fans feel. But what do you think about Tottenham's chances?
I think one of the best things that they have done is they actually sold Emerson Royale. Like they got somebody
Oh,
for him.
man.
Please go. Just go. Just don't play
I love
anymore
his
for us.
name though. He's like,
I,
Emerson
I
Royale.
it was so weird, man. So he's a Brazilian right back, and you would expect him to. I don't know. Whenever I saw him, I thought that he looks like a good player, and then 5 minutes down the line, he would make some major error,
Oh
and like,
man,
oh god,
he,
what's happened?
he
So
would royally screw up.
yeah, yeah, very nice points for that. So
So,
I think what Tottenham missed last season was that big striker up front after Harry
hmm
Kane left.
hmm
Richarlison couldn't get the job done. Son
yeah.
was a little subdued for whatever
hmm
reason it was, and obviously they were learning under Postecoglou.
hmm
But they play a great brand of football. I like their approach. Obviously, it could be a little better in defense. And Solanke is a good name. I mean, he's a good proper English striker. He can
Yeah.
finish. He does the hard work up front. It could be a pretty good signing for Spurs as they also try to break into the top four and
hmm
search for Champions League football.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Okay, quickly moving on. Let's talk about Manchester United next.
Let's go.
I know we talked about them a little earlier. We were raving about Lenny Euro, but unfortunately he got injured. He's going to be
Yeah.
out. But they've gone out and gotten Matthias De Ligt to replace him. They've also got I think Mazraoui as right back from Bayern Munich. Couple of pretty big signings there on top of Xerxes and all of those folks. So what do you think their chances are, and how will
So
that squad shape up?
So we spoke about this, and we were talking about how Ineos has changed their approach. Now they're
hmm
signing either players who are young or a little more established and can grow. That's where Mazraoui and Delete come in.
hmm
So the funny thing is that Eric Ten Hag seems to be creating an Avengers side of former Ajax players.
Yes.
Like he's got Onana, he's got Delete, he's got Mazraoui, he's got Anthony.
Don't forget Anthony, the human fidget
Anthony, yeah,
spinner.
yeah. And he's also spoken about doing some crazy stuff. So the thing is that Manchester United have good players. It's just how Eric Ten Hag sets them up. I think
hmm
they should perform better than they did last season
hmm
because of the players that they have. But I'm still not certain about what kind of football style he wants to play. So they did actually really well in the Community Shield. I think they should have won it in normal time. They didn't. But again, they were made to pay for the missed chances and all. Uh, I still don't think they're that finished product, and I think there are teams that will perform better than them simply because they have a better game plan.
Agreed.
But yeah, let's see. Let's see. It'll be interesting. I want to see how Dillit does because he's had a troubling couple of seasons.
Yeah, yeah.
At first at
A lot
Bayern and
of
then Union.
managers don't seem to pick him, right? Very interestingly, at Bayern
Yeah.
Munich as well as Netherlands national team,
So
somehow he doesn't inspire a lot of
Thomas
confidence.
Tuchel was playing Eric Dyer in front
Exactly,
of Dillit. Eric
exactly,
Dyer. So
exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Where
yeah.
there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know. Let's see. Okay,
Let's see.
now moving on to some of the teams that we support. Let's talk about Chelsea, right? Chelsea, I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on. It's a mess, right? We have 44 first team players or something, and
45 is what I
yeah,
read somewhere.
exactly. And we need to shift like 20 of them in the next 9 or 10 days. I don't really know what's going to happen. They were trying to go after this guy called Samu Amorodion from
Hmm.
Atletico. They'd almost, he'd done his medical. Conor Gallagher was going to go the other way and it broke down. I don't know what's going on. Conor Gallagher was in limbo. No way to treat, the person who captained the club last year. It's a total mess. But anyways, I don't really have very high hopes, especially because, we are also playing a very new system. A lot of players coming back from injury. I don't really think we're going to do any better than last year. I would be very surprised if we do. So, sixth or anywhere less is what I'm predicting. I don't know whether you have any separate thoughts. You think Chelsea is going to do better than six or worse?
So I think Todd Bowley is a baseball guy, right?
Yeah,
So I think he's following the baseball
Dodgers.
approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I think in baseball sometimes they play two games in one day. I think that's what Kohli's trying to do. Like he wants two teams of Chelsea, like they get two cracks at it, so you
Oh
guys
my
can get
god.
double the points and somehow win the title. Like
Oh
Chelsea
my
A
god.
plays one game and then Chelsea B plays another game a few hours later against the same team possibly. So I don't know what's going on there. You guys, what one thing that I have read, and maybe we'll discuss this in another podcast when we have time, is that there is an impending transfer ban coming for you guys.
Mhm.
Maybe for a couple of windows, maybe for 3, 4 windows, something that you guys have already dealt with. I think that's why there is this stockpiling of talent that's going on right now, all young talent. So that it could be something, but I don't know. I don't think Chelsea will perform any better than they did last season. Uh, so Enzo Maresca plays a really interesting and good brand of football, but will he have the time to implement that and get to see the results with all of these players? That is something to be seen. A top six position, I think, will be pretty decent,
Yeah, agreed.
but
Agreed. Agreed.
I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure how if you'll be higher than that.
Yeah, yeah, not keeping our hopes any higher than that. I agree. Okay, moving on to, probably the three title contenders. Let's start with Liverpool, right? They
You're
came in
putting
third.
Liverpool as a title contender.
I mean, they came in third last year, right? And they've had a
Uh,
pretty good preseason. And we've talked about the fact that Slot is very similar to Klopp in many ways. So there shouldn't be, a big issue with the new manager. So what do you think Liverpool's chances are this season?
so my expectations from Liverpool aren't that high. I think a top four finish would be pretty good for Slot. A trophy will be incredible. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about Champions League. I'm just talking about maybe a League Cup. Something just gives him more confidence building the side. The only issue I see is the lack of the number six signing.
Yep.
We've spoken about this, so we have 2 weeks in the window as well. I hope we do get that signing because otherwise it'll be a huge problem for us. I don't think we'll be as close to the top two as some of the other, as maybe you would expect. I think we'll still be a pretty distant, point Stanley away from them. Although Slot is saying that we want to close that gap down. Uh, I actually want to see how we do. I want to see us play a proper Premier League side and understand how things are working out because preseason doesn't give you the final picture. I have liked what I've seen so far. The players seem energized. I think they're taking his new ideas and methods in quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some really exciting youngsters again, although we've sold quite a few of them.
Yes.
Trey and Yoi is somebody that's possibly going to light up the Premier League this season. And obviously, you've got the likes of Harvey Elliott doing really well and Connor Bradley, etc. So I'd be happy with the top three finish. I don't think we'll catch the top two. That's obviously Arsenal and Man City. What are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you obviously have to give Schlott some time, but I think you guys will still do well because I think your fundamentals are strong, right? Your team fundamentals are strong. Okay, moving on. I'd like to discuss Man City before I do
Hmm.
Arsenal because I think for me, I think Man City will come second because they've
Hmm.
sold Julian Alvarez, and
Yes.
some of their players are getting a little old, right? They haven't really reinforced the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, who missed a large part of the last season, Bernardo Silva, and so on and so forth. Oscar Bob, was supposed to be a
Huge
shining light.
injury.
He's broken his foot, unfortunately. So that's going to be a bit of a setback. I don't know whether they'll go out and buy, some stellar players in the next couple of weeks or so, but I think City might not be able to make it five in a row because they've got won four in a row, right?
I think they have won four in a
Yeah,
row.
yeah.
Whatever. I think apart from that one Liverpool season in between, they would have won 7 or 8 in a row, which
Mm-hmm.
is incredible, despite all of the talks about financial doping, etc. I think you're bang on. I don't think Man City will win the title. I think this could be Pep's most difficult season in charge of City also because if you remember last season, apart from the final few games, they really struggled at times. Haaland wasn't clicking like he's supposed to. He wasn't scoring or banging the goals in for fun like he was missing out in the last few games. Kevin De Bruyne sometimes wasn't as good as he's supposed to. Obviously, age will catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Walker is a problem as the right back. You've lost somebody as the talent of Julian Alvarez. Oscar Bob is an injury problem. And if teams actually went out and tried to, play against City, they struggled for a long time in matches. So it could be a season where Pep Guardiola has to reinvent his team again. Maybe play six centre backs or something at the back. I don't know. So I actually do think City will finish second, and we all know who will come first, right?
Yeah. But you know who's going to be the hardest to replace for City? It's Calvin Phillips.
Oh wow! Poor Gareth Southgate.
Quoting Southgate. Sorry,
Yeah,
Southgate getting bashed
if they
here.
had if
Yeah,
Southgate had Phillips, they would have won the Euros for sure.
He's going to Ipswich Town on loan, Calvin Phillips. Okay, so let's talk about who I think we both think might be champions this season. You know,
Hmm.
take that final leap. Arsenal, right? I think Calafiore is going to be big for them, right? That basically locks up an already impenetrable defense. They had, pretty good attacking force going forward. They've got Saka, Odegaard. Howard seems to click for them. Martinelli, of course, they have Rice, Partey, Jorginho, and all of those guys. I think they are setting themselves up for success this time. What do you think?
Yeah, and they might actually make another signing, Mikel Merino from
Oh, that would
Sociedad.
be amazing. Yeah.
That would be an amazing thing. So they finally did get the midfielder from Sociedad, and we couldn't. Wonderful. We went for the wrong one, it seems. But
Yeah.
yeah, Arsenal's attack was not a problem last season. I think it was the defense at times. If they get Calafiori in, who can play left back and centre back, I think that will really cement that back four for them. They already have a pretty good side. So things look really good for Arteta. I think so. They followed a pretty decent path. So 2 seasons back, they fell off when they were leading the race for the title. Last season, they took it to the final day. I think this season could be the one where they break that duck after what 2002 was it, or 2003? When was the last time they won it?
Yeah,
2004
long, long
maybe.
time ago. Yeah.
2004, 2005, maybe 20 years. So I think Arsenal could do it. They do have the talent all around the team. It's a young core also, which will develop over the years. So Arteta's got something going. I really don't see how some other clubs could beat them. Like,
Hmm.
I think they've got everything that you need for a Premier League title side. This could be the one for Arsenal
Yeah,
fans.
yeah.
It could be. Yeah.
We're both in agreement on that. Okay, let's quickly talk about the teams that we think might struggle. Of course, the three newly promoted squads, which is Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester. They are the obvious kind of suspects. But do you think any existing teams might struggle? Maybe Nottingham Forest?
So it depends on the three teams that have come up, right? Last season, the three teams that came up were so bad
Hmm.
that none of the other teams were under any threat.
Yep.
I want to see how Leicester do, because they have a pretty decent side. Although they lost Maresca, they could be the one that survives. The other two teams I'm not quite
I
sure
think
about.
Ipswich have
Oh
a
yeah,
good
Ipswich
team as
also.
well, and
Yeah,
they're signing some good players actually, right? And then the other thing about Ipswich is they came very, very close to winning,
winning the
championship. Yeah, yeah.
championship. Yeah, but then the problem that I see is that sometimes jumping from the championship to the Premier League is a huge leap in terms of quality.
Yeah,
So we need to see how they do. Last season it wasn't great for the newly promoted sides.
true.
Maybe this season could be different. But yeah, apart from Forest, I don't know. Maybe Wolves. Wolves could be somebody that struggles.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe they've lost
and
Neto,
Brentford.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
lost
and
Neto. They
Brentford
lost
also.
Kilman. Yeah,
Neto isn't that big of a loss, man. He was injured half the season.
that's
He's going to be
true.
injured at
That's true.
Chelsea also. He's
That's
gonna.
that's
He and Reece James apparently became friends while they were on the treatment table. Have you read that?
no. I feel sad for Reece James. He's injured again.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So,
What
uh,
about Everton? What do you
yeah, I
think?
was
There'll
gonna
be the
say
same
Everton
saga?
also.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is that Man City will be found guilty of all of their problems and they'll relegate Everton. So
Yes, I think.
I was reading that they're gonna give them another points deduction at the start of the
Oh,
season.
oh my
I don't
God.
know
They need
what
to get
Everton
better
have done.
lawyers, man. They need to get
You need to
they need to
sign
sign
lawyers rather than
they need to
yeah.
sign the Man City lawyers is what they need to do.
I don't know what's happening with them, man. I kind of feel for them now, although they're like a
Yeah.
rival of Liverpool.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's like the bully, right? The bully is just taking on the kid. So I think
Agreed.
Everton, they have lost quite a like the Onana the signing of Onana was a big loss for them. So
Yes.
I don't know. I want to see how Everton do. The Goodison crowd always gets them through the season.
Actually, that's very true.
That's the thing that's going for them. And
Yep.
who's the
Yep.
manager? It's Dyche, right?
Yes.
So
He
yeah,
knows how
I
to,
yeah,
survive.
I think they'll be safe. I think they'll be
He's a
17,
bulldog.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But they could be in trouble also. Who knows if somebody finds out what Daesh does.
Okay, so the first weekend, which game are you looking forward to the most? For me, obviously, it's watching Chelsea getting beat by Man City. Just how many
Yeah,
goals we'll win, lose by, I don't know.
actually,
Which one are you
uh,
looking forward to?
that's the one I want to watch also the most. But
Uh-huh.
obviously, my eyes will also be on Ipswich Town versus Liverpool. So,
Mm-hmm.
one funny stat before we end the show is that the last 5 or 6 Liverpool managers who have come in a permanent role, they have never won the first Premier League game of the season.
Hmm.
That's Klopp. That's I think Hodgson, Kenny Dalglish, Benitez. Can Slot break that duck? I want to see that, and I also want to see how this brand of football works in a proper Premier League
Mm-hmm.
match. So yeah,
I think you guys will beat Ipswich pretty handily, but
never say never.
yeah, that's true. But I'm also looking forward to the West Ham Aston Villa clash. We talked about how West Ham could usurp Aston Villa this time, and then the first game obviously we'll keep an eye on Man United
Yeah,
and Fulham. Let's see.
let's
Okay,
see.
perfect. So I think that's the last thing we want to talk about today. We're all excited about the Premier League, and as usual, to our audience, thank you so much for watching our podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. The long format as well as the shorts, and looking forward to reading your comments as well. So please keep commenting, and see you next time. Thank you.
Bye bye.